What's up, guys? My name is Robert Donaldson, and today I'm actually coming at you guys with a very different kind of video, and it's something that I've always really wanted to do. And so I finally just said, what the heck? This could be a lot of fun, and let's hope that the NFL doesn't act too harshly on it. Let's just put it that way. So today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the new members of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, and that is obviously former Iowa offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs. And we're going to be examining just how exactly he fits into what Tampa Bay wants to do on offense. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about why he made the most sense for the Bucs at 13th overall in general. And with that said, if you're an Iowa fan, you're probably going to learn more about the Bucs offense and offensive line than you ever thought you would. And if you're a Bucs fan, well, you're probably going to know a lot of these things already. But if you take away anything from this video, hopefully it gives you just a clear idea or provides you with that little bit of insight on the kind of player the Bucs are going to get with this first round investment in Tristan Wirfs. Going back to 2019, the Bucs offensive line looked something like this. At left tackle, you had 6-year starter Donovan Smith. At left guard, you had one of the best guards in the NFL in Ali Marpet. At center, you had newcomer Ryan Jensen. At right guard, you had Alex Kappa. And finally, at right tackle, you had 8-year starter DeMar Dotson. Now, the player we're really going to focus on here is DeMar Dotson, because presumably that's going to be the guy that Wirfs will be replacing at right tackle, at least in year one. And for several seasons now, DeMar Dotson has been a mainstay at both left and right tackle for the Bucs. And although there's been some rough moments, all things considered, I honestly believe he's been pretty serviceable. And, and also I'd say even more than serviceable at times. So, and that's been over about a 6 or 7 year span. However, with his game, the core of it has always been centered around his ability to pass protect. He's a former college basketball player. He played on the defensive line in college, and he made the transition to tackle in the NFL. So he was a very raw prospect and a very raw player in the beginning of his career that kind of came into his own and became a serviceable guy that could pass protect. And he's never really been seen as a guy who is a mauler or a manhandler in the run game. And he's a 6'9" guy who, plays like he's 6'9". He plays really high. He doesn't win with leverage. He doesn't drive anybody off the ball. And that really reared its ugly head last season when you watched him play. And it was significant in holding the Bucs back on the ground, where they finished 28th in yards per carry. And the thing is when you couple that with the fact that DeMar Dotson will be 35 this upcoming season, and the fact that he looked a step slower last season, more unbalanced, and definitely showed some clear signs of regression and what he's really known for, pass protection, the Bucs came to the decision not to re-sign him after what I mentioned earlier was a fairly serviceable tenure as a starting offensive tackle in Tampa Bay. And that's where Tristan Wirfs comes in. If there's one thing that's well acknowledged about Bucs head coach Bruce Arians and the offense he likes to run at the NFL level after all these years, it's that he likes to take his shots downfield in the passing game, and that was really on display last year when Jameis went 30 for 30. And I think it's also been very clear given how he's utilized guys like Big Ben and Andrew Luck and Carson Palmer. But there's a big misconception associated with that, and that is, in reality, Arians has always been a guy, whether it's in Pittsburgh, Arizona, or now in Tampa, who looks to run a true balanced offense. And I'd even go as far to say that he wants to have a run-first offense. And if I remember correctly, he's actually come out and said that at multiple stops throughout his career. And this is the area where Wirfs can immediately come in and change the entire dynamic of this football team from day one. Last season, the Bucs rarely ran off right tackle. And when they would run through the right side B gap, they would stack that side so heavy. And DeMar Dotson was immediately vacating to the second level more often than not. And the second Wirfs sees the field, you're going to see this dynamic completely change, which in turn is going to lead to more disguised run looks, a higher frequency of run calls to the right side of the formation. And none of that is even to say or even to mention that the Bucks are adding Rob Gronkowski. You know, they're adding a guy who is one of the best blocking tight ends in all of the NFL, and also a guy who truly makes personnel groupings and play calling essentially limitless. And in addition, with the addition of Wirfs, the Bucks are effectively adding a guy who brings a level of tenacity and power to the tackle spot that they just haven't seen since Donald Penn was in the building back in 2013. The second that the Bucks traded up to grab Tristan Wirfs, people immediately started talking about the future plans with Tristan and also about a potential move to left tackle. And in theory, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, Donovan Smith is completely off the books in 2022, and if they decide not to re-sign him, a transition over to left tackle could certainly be in play. After all, Wirfs has played a handful of snaps before at left tackle while at Iowa. With that said, we already know what Wirfs can become at right tackle, and let me give you one really big reason why a move to left tackle might not actually be the most optimal decision for the success of the Bucks on offense. In today's NFL, the right tackle spot has really become more important than ever, and that's due in large part because you have some absolute freaks of nature. You know, some of the best pass rushers in the game lining up a majority of the time over that side of the line of scrimmage. You know, guys like Von Miller, Khalil Mack, and in the NFC South, Cameron Jordan. So let me put it like this, and I'm all for getting some discussion going on this topic, but a lot of people always make a big deal about whether or not a team's best cornerback is shadowing the opposing team's best wide receiver. And the thought process that goes into that is that it's such a dynamic and potentially game-altering position battle. So why shouldn't your best be trying to mitigate their best at all times? In theory. But why isn't that the view at offensive tackle and going up against an opposing team's best pass rushers? I mean, do you really want your team's best tackle trying to mitigate the opposing team's replacement level or rotational D-end or outside linebacker? Or do you want them going out trying to fight fire with fire and have your best going up against their best? In the era of the quick passing game, the longtime phrases of the blind side and seeing the rush have, in my opinion, diminished a little bit, because nowadays you're more feeling the rush rather than seeing it. And if you're seeing the rush nowadays, you know, regardless of either side, you're probably going to get sacked. And athletes on the edge are faster than they ever been, and so is the speed of the game. So should there be such an overwhelming premium put on left tackle play over right tackle play? I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys to talk about, and I'd be happy to jump in too. But when you're in a division that requires you to see an absolute maniac like Cameron Jordan at least 2 times a year, you know, right tackle might be the priority. And with some refinement, I think Wirfs could become the best right tackle in the NFL in due time, and that's saying a lot. At the end of the day, this pick made a whole lot of sense for the Bucks. Not only will this move be able to do a lot in terms of bolstering an average offensive line from last year, it's also going to completely change how Arians and offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich are going to call the game on offense. And sure, there are definitely some things that Wirfs still needs to improve on. And if you want more on that, I do have a 10-minute full in-depth video talking all about him on my channel if you want to check it out. But this pick was a home run, and I truly believe that in short time, we're going to be mentioning the words Pro Bowl and All-Pro alongside Tristan Wirfs' name. I would like to personally thank all of you beautiful people for checking out today's video. If you want to see more videos like this one in the future, please be sure to like and subscribe, but more importantly than anything, please leave a comment. I say this every video, but you guys are awesome. And there's really nothing more that I love doing than being able to interact with you guys after posting these kind of videos. And with that said, take it easy, y'all.